So the rest of them are coming? All right. So let's get it going then. It's 7:02 and we'll call the Stayton Budget Committee meeting for Monday, May 7th to order. Everybody's here with the exception of those that were excused. I'm not going to go through all the names. We're waiting on Mark, I think, but we'll see if he shows up. With that, we will start with the election of a chair and a vice chair, please. I'll take nominations.
I thought you were the chair.
Yeah,
That was last year.
I would nominate Brian to continue serving.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I'll second that.
That's good. That's good.
There's been a motion and a second to keep myself as chair. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. I need a vice chair, please.
I'd like to nominate Alan Kingsley as vice chair.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to have Alan Kingsley serve as vice chair of the budget committee. All those in favor, or sorry, discussion? None. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
So, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Kingsley is vice chair of the budget committee. That leaves us to approval of the minutes from last year. So all those of you that were in attendance last year and that can remember that far back, I'll offer a motion or accept the motion to the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to accept the minutes from last year's budget committee meeting, which was May 24th, 2016. Any discussion? All those in favor of passing it?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Same sign. My motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I abstain on that vote. I wasn't
Thank
here
you.
last year.
Thank you, Alan. So let me change it then. Mr. Kingsley abstain. I think Councilor Osselman does as well. And with that, we will go on to the budget message from Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'm happy to present to you our proposed 2017-2018 budget. Purpose of tonight's meeting is to formally present this document, make it a public record, and then reconvene next week when everyone's had a time to review and to consider this. It follows a similar format to our budget process of last year. We have a table of contents in the front, the budget message, which if we'd like, I'd be happy to read. I'd understand if you guys don't, but I'd be happy to read something other than Gerald and Piggy books, so we can do that if you want. And also it goes through each item, each fund, each department with highlights and just general information. I just want to note, when you're looking at, we just try to highlight the key components and information. Towards the back, you'll find a glossary of definitions and terms. That's on page 91. On page 89, you're going to see something new this year, which is our capital improvements schedule. We do anticipate this will continue to grow. That is a list of our capital projects that we have planned over the next 5 years and beyond. And then finally, if for those who are so inclined, we have our fiscal policies at the end of the document, and after our fiscal policies were adopted on October 17th of 2016, is the actual line item of each line item for the budget. So if you're so inclined, all of the information and work and detail is there. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. If you'd like, I'd be happy to read the budget message. I'll defer to the group.
Is anybody compelled to have Mr. Campbell read his message?
I could read it at a later time.
Okay, thank you. Keith, what else?
Just a reminder that our next meeting is next Monday here, May 8th at 6 p.m., and then Tuesday, May 9th at 6 p.m., and then if needed, Wednesday, May 10th at 6 p.m. Also, if needed, we will have the staff here for these meetings. We will be doing presentations from each staff member talking about their budget and answering any questions. We do encourage you to come with questions, comments, any advice or recommendations or changes you'd like to see made.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I kind of would like Keith to read it, only because if I had some questions about what I'm looking at over the week, maybe that when he reads what his what the opening is, that would let me address any questions now.
You want them to read all 4 pages?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Can I preface that with, if anyone else wants to read it at home? I think we're, I mean, is that appropriate? If, never mind, go ahead.
Yeah. I think it's 6 pages, too. I don't want to be shorter than how much I wrote here. Honorable Mayor Porter, members of the Stayton City Council, citizen members of the Budget Committee, and citizens of the City of Stayton. I submit for your consideration the proposed 2017-18 City of Stayton budget with a general fund budget of $5,221,585, a total citywide budget of $22,322,756. For 2016-17, we made a significant transition from our budget document and budget presentation. The goal was to move toward a Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, budget document. The GFOA budget reflects the highly regarded best practices of local budgeting. A commitment to the GFOA budget reflects the commitment of the governing body, the Budget Committee, and the staff to meet the highest principles in governmental budgeting. The guidelines for GFOA budget mandate criteria to assume that a budget serves as 1, a policy document, 2, a financial plan, 3, an operations guide, and 4, a communications device. The changes in our budgeting practices were substantial. I am pleased to say that the City of Stayton was awarded the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for 2016-17 annual budget. This award is the highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting. For 2016-17, only 17 Oregon municipalities and 2 county governments were given this prestigious award. Including Stayton, only 3 municipalities received the award with populations of less than 10,000 people. We can still do better. As part of our GFOA review, the city received quality feedback in areas where we continue to enhance and improve our budget to meet and exceed the mandated criteria. This year's budget continues the process with additional improvements and enhancements. This should be our continuous goal moving forward. I want to share again the approach that I would ask you to take. I would ask that you take in reviewing and adopting our community's budget. A good budget process is far from the preparation of a legal document that appropriates funds for a series of line items. Good budgeting is a broadly defined process that politically, managerial, planning, communication, and financial dimensions. The following definition recognizes the broad scope of the budget process and provides a base for improvement of the budget process. The budget process consists of activities that encompass the development, implementation, and evaluation of a plan for the provision of services and capital assets. A good budget process is characterized by several essential features. A good budget process incorporates a long-term perspective, establishes linkage to broad organizational goals, focuses budget decisions on results and outcomes, involves and promotes effective communication with stakeholders, provides incentives for government, management, and employees. Key characteristics of good budgeting make clear that a budget process is not simply an exercise in balancing revenues and expenditures one year at a time, but is strategic in nature, encompassing a multi-year financial and operating plan that allocates resources on the basis of identified goals. A good budget process moves beyond the traditional concept of line item expenditure control, providing incentives and flexibility to managers that can lead to improved program efficiency and effectiveness. The mission of a good budget process identifies the central goal of the budget process. This incorporates both political and managerial aspects, as well as a responsibility to report and account for the provisions of service and use of resources. Communication and involvement with citizens and other stakeholders is stressed. The broad nature of the mission allows issues to be addressed that have limited the success of budgeting in the past. A mission of the budget process is to help decision makers make informed choices about the provision of services and capital assets and to promote stakeholder participation in the process. While governments that are not in touch and do not involve citizens may remain in business, the results are often not pleasant for the citizens or the government. The budget should be the centerpiece of a thoughtful, ongoing decision-making process for allocating resources and setting priorities and direction. The principles of the budget process follow the 4 principles of the budget process. 1, establish broad goals and guide government decision-making. A government should have broad goals that provide overall direction for the government and to serve as a basis for decision-making. 2, develop an approach to achieve goals. The government should have specific policies, plans, programs, and management strategies to define how it will achieve its long-term goals. 3, develop a budget consistent with approaches to achieve goals. A financial plan and a budget that moves towards achieving Achievement of goals within the constraints of available resources should be prepared and adopted. 4, evaluate performance and make adjustments. Program and financial performance should be continually evaluated and adjustments made to encourage process towards achieving goals. Each of these principles of the budget process incorporates components or elements that represent achievable goals. These elements help translate the guiding principles into action components. Individual budgetary practices are derived from these and are the way to accomplish these elements. The elements of each guiding principle are identified on the following page. The principle and elements provide a structure to categorize budgetary practices. A more detailed explanation of the principles and elements is provided in the appendix. The 12 elements of the budget process establish broad goals to guide government decision-making. 1, assess community needs, priorities, challenges, and opportunities. 2, identify opportunities and challenges for government services, capital assets, and management. 3, develop and disseminate broad goals, develop approaches to achieve goals. 4, adopt financial policies. 5, develop programmatic, operating, and capital policies and plans. 6, develop programs and services that are consistent with policies and plans. 7, develop management strategies, develop a budget consistent with approaches to achieve goals. 8, develop a process for preparing and adopting a budget. 9, develop and evaluate financial options. 10, make choices necessary to adopt a budget, evaluate performance, make adjustments. 11, monitor, measure, and evaluate performance. 12, make adjustments as needed. I don't want this budget to be rubber stamped. I want it to be examined, considered, and questioned. This budget is just a proposal. It is, until approved, a draft. Your thoughts and feedback will only improve the quality of the final product. This budget should be the narrative and the reflection of the values of our community, and the approval of the Budget Committee is approval that this budget is working to address the values of our community. Reading a budget should be a window into the values of our community. It isn't so much what we say our values are, rather where we spend our money is the true reflection of values. Adoption of this budget is our public declaration of what our values are as a community. Stated council goals. While the city council goals have yet to be finalized, the budget was able to look to begin addressing clearly stated objectives from the goal-setting sessions. 1, Planning Department has $95,000 to fund a comprehensive economic development study. 2, Street Maintenance Fund has $135,000 to fund an update to our transportation master plan. 3, Police budget has increased funding for code enforcement from 0.3 FTEs to 1 FTE. 4, Planning Department has $5,000 to support Friends of Old Town Stayton in their continued efforts to revitalize our historic downtown. Improving the conditions of our roads is a clear priority. Unknown before completion of this budget is the electors' decision on the proposed 3-cent per gallon gas tax. The gas tax income was not placed in this budget, but if the measure is adopted, an adjustment will be made and the funds received will be spent on improving our roads. Since 2000, we have spent approximately $137,000 per year on street construction and overlay project. This budget nearly doubles that average to $250,000. With approval of the gas tax, this line item could increase to $410,000. Regardless of the outcome of the gas tax vote, we will need to continue to be aggressive and creative in attempting to identify ways to improve the conditions of our streets. If the voters approve the gas tax, it is no panacea. There is no quick fix for this issue. It will require time, patience, and dedication. Carryover. Our budget should be aggressive and challenging to staff. There are 2 budget items that were approved in 2016-17 budget that are requested to carry forward in 2017 and 18. Both projects have completed bid documents, and while work continues on both projects, the reality is that neither of these projects will be completed prior to the end of the 2016-2017 budget cycle. As such, this budget requests continued funding for 1, Parks Fund has $100,000 to complete repair work on the Jordan Bridge, and 2, Facilities and Development and Maintenance Fund has $25,000 to complete the needs assessment. Pool. The city will resume the management of the Stayton Family Memorial Pool at the beginning of the 2017-2018 fiscal year. While this is not the first time the city has assumed all operational duties, creating a budget with limited antiquated data available is challenging. The proposed budget is aggressive on expenses and conservative on revenues. It will be important to monitor this fund closely throughout the budget year. Marijuana. This budget shows first-time revenues related to Oregon's legalization of marijuana. This budget conservatively estimates $18,500 in revenue from the elector-approved 3% tax on local sales. While overall sales in Oregon have far exceeded initial estimates, there has still been no indication of when or how those tax revenues will be distributed back to local governments. Under all metrics, we should receive some share of these sales. When and how much is still very much in the air, and as such, we have not budgeted any expected income from the state on marijuana sales. Highlights. This budget begins to take advantage of the work that's being done to have a detailed 5-year capital improvement project list and 5-year capital maintenance project list. Currently, our water and sewer funds are in stasis. However, we know expenses are looming. This budget accounts for rate studies to be done so that we can begin to address the long-term needs of these funds. There was a significant across-the-board increase in personnel cost. A good portion of these increases can be attributed to retirement benefits. The police officers are part of PERS, with the rest of the city staff being part of the city's defined benefit retirement plan. PERS costs increased significantly to account for the ongoing long-term solvency challenges of PERS. Retirement costs for other employees increased due to the changes made to a more conservative approach in our actuarial assumptions. We need to continue to closely monitor our defined benefits plan to avoid situations similar to the challenges that PERS is continuing to face. The budget continues to try to address significant computer and network deficiencies throughout the city. This budget accounts for a large-scale replacement and upgrade of hardware and software. Going forward, an ongoing replacement plan would be beneficial to avoid large, unexpected costs. An improved economy means construction, which leads to SEC revenue and reimbursements. Multiple home builders have aggressive plans for build-out. Our SDC estimates take a conservative approach. Notable capital projects included in the proposed budget that have not already been discussed are library, a new roof, parks, funding for the Lambert-Putney Master Plan, water, a 16-inch water line on Shaft Road, and stormwater construction, Phase 1 of the Lambert-Putney facility. Vehicle Replacement Fund. The budget proposes the elimination of the Vehicle Replacement Fund. This fund sat essentially idle last year as staff considered options. A year-end estimate shows $987,000 with $207,000 receivable from stormwater. This budget proposes transferring approximately one-half of these monies back to these funds based off previous allocations. $102,000 to the general fund, $140,000 to the street fund, $139,000 to the water fund, $207,000 to the sewer fund, and $11,000 to the stormwater fund. After these transfers, the remaining balance on the fund will be $387,000 plus the $207,000 receivable from the stormwater fund. With this money, we can reduce the unfunded actuarial liability of the city retirement plan, or transfer back to the originating fund, or retain as an emergency reserve. I want to thank each of the Budget Committee members for their time and energy you're giving to be part of this important process. The budget should tell the story of the city and should be a reflection of the values of our community. Your input, questions, approval of the final budget is critical to the success of our community. The service that you're providing is done as a volunteer and as a leader of our community. Your time and effort is greatly appreciated. Last year, we discussed the significant changes we were making to our budget and budget process. We moved our budget to a Government Finance Officer Association GFOA Best Practices Guideline. This budget is presented in a direct and concise manner, focusing on key components of each fund. For those so inclined, the entire line item budget is presented in its entirety at the back of this document. It is important to make the budget accessible to all stakeholders in your community so that everyone can understand and remain knowledgeable and informed about the city's finances and operations. GFOA has provided feedback to continue to enhance and improve our budget. Work has been done to continue to improve our budget document. This budget is a continued enhancement of the work that was started last year. The city intends to submit this budget to the GFOA for continued consideration of their Distinguished Budget Award. I want to personally thank Andy Parks, the Interim Finance Director, for his knowledge, skill, and understanding of not judging where we are, but helping us to move forward toward where we want to go. I want to thank the staff who worked so hard to put this budget together. Police Chief Rich Stevens and Lieutenant Charlie Button, Public Works Director Lance Ludwig, Planner Dan Fleshman, Library Director Jenna Moser, Deputy City Recorder Alyssa Angelo, and Associate Accountant Cindy Sharon. Respectfully submitted. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Anybody have any questions for Keith? If not, we will adjourn until the next meeting. Thank you.